Hi everyone, I'm Josilyn Lieb from Ohio Northern University's History Department. I'm a final year history major with plans to study at Queen's University Belfast this coming fall to earn my master's in public history. I want to start by first thanking the National First Ladies Museum for the opportunity to present my research with you today. I know that this isn't the most traditional way to present. I for sure miss the face-to-face interaction, but I'm grateful that technology allows us all to still come together and learn and appreciate history together. Today, I'm going to be talking about Lucy Webb Hayes. This all got started because as a college woman myself, I was interested in learning more about her as a college woman rather than just the wife of a president. Before we go too far into my research about Lucy Webb Hayes, I want to start with talking about the traditional view of First Ladies. What you see here is the National Museum of American History's First Lady exhibit. It's part of the Smithsonian. I want you to take a couple seconds to just notice what you notice about the exhibit. What do you think the narrative or the story about First Ladies is being told? There seems to have been a re-examination of First Ladies. And a few examples that I had found were Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, and Dolley Madison. To look at this reexamination, I used two books, one published in 1975 titled The First Ladies, and another published in 2009 titled Secret Life of the First Ladies. In 1975, Martha Washington is considered a content wife who just wanted a private existence with her family. In 2009, Martha Washington is the reason for George Washington's financial wealth. She has a mind of a businesswoman, and she was entrusted with military secrets as a Revolutionary War clerk to her husband. Abigail Adams in 1975 is credited for being the wife of one president and the mother to another president. She is also credited for having to endure long separations from her husband while he was founding America. In 2009, she is the partner of her husband. She is known for being so firm in her opinion that she would rather be shot like a turkey than to keep her opinion to herself. That's how the book put it. And then there's the famous quote that seems to be getting a lot of appreciation lately: remember the ladies. Dolley Madison's narrative wasn't changed in a dramatic way or re-examined in a dramatic way. It was a more subtle alteration to how we see her. In 1975, Dolley Madison is loved by everyone in Washington, D.C. and throughout the United States for her social skills. She's also known for being in a happy marriage with James Madison. In 2009, Dolley Madison is known for her social skills being such a strength that her husband sits her at the head of the table because he knows that she can lead conversations that include everybody but doesn't offend anyone. She's also known as the hero of the White House. During the War of 1812, when word comes to her that the British are planning to burn down the White House, she is able to collect valuables and save them. Now we still get to enjoy them today. It's important to note both books are factual, but their interpretations are different for all three of these women. However, Lucy Hayes just seems to be Lucy Hayes. In 2009, she's still credited with being in a happy marriage and for being the one to ban alcohol in the White House, earning her the famous nickname Lemonade Lucy. In fact, it's the 1975 interpretation of Lucy Webb Hayes that includes her Civil War service as a nurse and acknowledges her as, quote, Mother Lucy to the Ohio 23rd. Despite those interpretations, again, neither are wrong. They're both correct interpretations of Lucy Webb Hayes. But there's another aspect of her that I would like to talk about today. Lucy Webb Hayes was highly in tune with the world around her, in both a political sense and a religious one. Lucy Webb Hayes is the First Lady to earn a college degree. It's through the examination of her college essays that I learned so much more about her mind and her beliefs. From here on until we close, we're going to acknowledge Lucy Webb Hayes as Lucy Webb, or just Lucy, because during her time as a college student, she was not married. And so it's important to acknowledge her with the name that she would have had during this time period. So, Lucy Webb attended Cincinnati Wesleyan Female College from 1847 to 1850. A few notable events that were happening during or around the time of her college experience were the Oregon Trail of 1843, the revolutions of 1848, and Seneca Falls of 1848. There were around 400 other women studying at the time, Lucy Hayes was, and as a student, Lucy was known for being, quote, diligent and anxious to excel in her studies. She was in honor societies based on her academic achievements, and she was passionate about the essays that she was writing. She wasn't just writing them to write them. You can tell with the words she uses or the way she speaks in her essays that she actually cares about these essays. Before we talk about what she talks about in the essays, I want to point out a few things that deal with the structure. There are a couple interesting words she has. She uses Romanisms to talk about Catholics. That word was used a lot during the Protestant Reformation to offend Catholics. And then she also uses the word Mohammedan. This term was used to address Muslims until around the 1960s. Then people started realizing that this offends them because it makes them feel like they worship Muhammad rather than Allah. She also uses the long S. An iconic location for the long S is the United States Constitution. Around the 19th century, the late 19th century, the long S just isn't used anymore. To the right of my screen might be my favorite part of Lucy's structure, her grammar. There are times where she gets so quick and so passionate about what she's writing about that grammar just takes a back seat, which can be a little relatable. As far as what she talks about, there are a few categories she hits on a lot throughout most of her essays. The first being knowledge and happiness. Note, these are grouped together as one topic. She put a lot of importance on people having knowledge. She said knowledge makes people happy, and, quote, the greatest and most natural desire of the human heart is happiness. In fact, she doesn't leave it there. She expands on happiness. She says people have sacrificed so much to be happy. This is her quote from one of her essays. If we turn to the pages of history, we will find that it is not the present or any one generation who have so much desired its attainment, that it has been a ruling passion in all ages and among all people. In a way, she's telling you that you can't have one without the other. You need knowledge to be happy, and to be happy, you need knowledge. Then she compares knowledge to wealth. Like wealth, you can't just have knowledge. It's something that you have to work for. Another topic she focuses on is religion. In most of her essays, there's a reference about faith, or about her faith in particular being a Christian. She writes from a strong Methodist perspective, but let's talk about that for a second. During the time that Lucy Webb is in college, the Methodist Church just split over the issue of slavery. Right, so let's talk about her location. Lucy Webb attends college in Cincinnati, Ohio. Right below the river and below the city is Kentucky, a slave state. So she's in a very interesting location with being in her church and for being in college. She did argue that religion didn't always require sacrifices, but now it does, because people have to sacrifice the desires to be evil or foolish because of being a fallen people. Her faith is extremely important to her, and you can tell through the reading of her essays and through her involvement in organizations in her later years. She also had an essay that compared Protestants to Catholics. Again, remember that she's coming from a Protestant perspective. Her topics on liberty can be broken into 3 different areas. She focuses on liberty, temperance, and women. With liberty, She says that countries without liberty are in a constant state of civil war. For this, she uses Turkey as an example. Another quote is that liberty is a desire implanted in the human heart. People can't gain intelligence or knowledge without liberty. Again, so people can't be happy if they don't have liberty because they don't have knowledge. Another thing that Lucy points out in her essays is that she's thrilled with where the world is right now. She thinks, not right now as in 2020, but right now as in 1840s to 1850s. But she thinks that the world is in such a good place because more people are converting to Christianity and monarchies are falling. So to her, this is what a good world looks like. She does talk about temperance. And with that, you can't be surprised on the lemonade Lucy, because she later goes, like we said, and bans alcohol in the White House. But with temperance, and with her essay, has the society the right to prohibit the manufacture and sale of ardent spirits? She says that anything that injures or endangers the people in America should be prohibited by the government. And she says the government has the right to do so. She also argues that men who aren't for temperance spend all of their money on alcohol and thus can't take care of their family. She says that she's for temperance because it's better for families, not because she's against alcohol as a substance. She also talks about women. And with this, I want to also note 1848 Seneca Falls Convention. Could she have been influenced by the Seneca Falls Convention? Maybe. A lot of people were hearing about it, but maybe these thoughts were hers too. Who knows? But one of her quotes says, "It has been comparatively but a few years since women were considered an inferior being. It was thought that she had not mind enough to study, but now what a change. As the world advances, her rights are seen and maintained, and she has many privileges. Instead of being considered the slave of man, she is considered his equal in all things, and his superior in some." So now let's talk about Lucy Webb Hayes. This is going to be my final section for this presentation. On December 30th, 1852, Lucy and Rutherford married. During the Civil War, like we talked about before, Lucy Webb Hayes becomes Mother Lucy to Ohio's 23rd Regiment. She takes on nursing duties and heals soldiers and sews on buttons and just all around takes care of them. During her husband's years as a politician, this is going to go back to her essays a little bit and her firm opinions. His political career is never addressed as her husband's political career. Her husband's political career is their political career, something they share and both work at. Later in life, we see again how Lucy is passionate about education and politics and her faith. She's involved in an organization, a religious organization with the Methodist Church. And in 1880, she served as their president. I also want to note, in 1880, she was still First Lady, but she was president to a religious organization. So she's involved in her own stuff, which is pretty cool. I hope this presentation helps give Lucy Webb Hayes more credit than just being the one who banned alcohol in the White House. I want to show that, like Martha Washington, Lucy Webb Hayes bravely went with her husband to encampments in the war. That wasn't the focus of the presentation, but it's something that relates to two women. She was educated. She was firm in her beliefs. She was passionate about those beliefs, like Abigail Adams. And, like Dolley Madison, she was cherished and loved as a First Lady. This would be the time that I would take questions and have a more in-depth chat with you about what you were interested in. But unfortunately, since we're not face-to-face, I can't ask your questions for everyone here. But if you do have questions, I would love to answer them. So hopefully in some way or form, my email address will be attached to wherever this is presented. And you can email me, and I would love to answer your questions. And if I don't know the answer, Well, maybe we can research it and figure it out together. But since I can't answer your questions, I do want to talk about some sources that I used to maybe help you if you want to learn more about Lucy yourself. She's very interesting as a first lady, as a college woman, as a person in general. She's a fascinating human. And so a few sources that I used were, they're all listed here. The First Lady, The Life of Lucy Webb Hayes by Emily Year, I think, in 1975. It's this pink book here. This book is a fascinating read. In general, it's a quick read. It talks more about her as a college woman. It talks about her family life before, like how she grew up. It talks about her courting years and as a first lady, and it even talks about the Civil War, being Mother Lucy. It's great. It's a great read for that. That was what my initial source had led me to, and it's a fascinating read in general. Then, of course, there are the college essays. I received copies of the essays from the Hayes Presidential Library and Museum. There are a lot of them. There are a lot. They, with her cursive and her bad grammar, in some cases, it takes a lot of mental energy to read them. But if you do read them, you do learn a lot about her and her feelings and her emotions and her passions, and they're interesting. They do take a lot of time. They're not a quick read by any means, shape, or form, but they're very interesting to read. I then used the National First Ladies Library to get a timeline of her college years and her education years in general. Some First Lady books, we talked about these before when I was talking about how these First Ladies evolved, but I only told you about 3 of them. In the 1975 book, I don't know where you can get it. I got this from my Grammy, who went to DC around that time, and she got it as a souvenir. So I don't know if you can buy it on eBay or Amazon. I'm sure it's somewhere. But First Lady Carter is a pamphlet. She wasn't First Lady at the time, so she's just a sheet. But this book was very interesting to read as well. And then The Secret Life of the First Lady from 2009. This one was funny. It's a funny read. It's an enjoyable read. You definitely get a very interesting view of these First Ladies. I think, who are we up to? 2009. So, what? How's Trump in here? Well, Trump's in here. So, 2009 is probably not right. But, it was republished in 2009. There you go. So, she was added when Donald Trump became president. So, that's a very funny read. I did enjoy it. I guess I didn't get all the way through it, though, because I didn't know how Melania Trump was in here. So, it's a good book in general. So, those are my sources. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to answer your questions. If you just want to chat about Lucy Hayes, that would be fun. Like, whatever you need or what, just email me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for spending the time to listen to me talk about my research and ramble about the books at the end. I really appreciate your time. Again, stay safe, stay well, stay sane, and have an amazing day.